We all know that replying to messages is the bane of existence. So in order to stay on top of things and not ghost people, we do need to have some coping mechanisms in place. Today, I want to recommend you mine, and I highly recommend trying some of them out. They are in no particular order, so definitely listen till the end. I really think these will help you. Rule number 1. A shitty response is better than no response. This is something that my best friend taught me because she said to me, well, I'm waiting for you to craft the best response. I miss you, I'm worried about you, I'm wondering what you're doing. I prefer you tell me anything. Send me a crappy meme, send me a stupid voice message, but just have some sign of life, please. I think if this is, especially if it's a friend or family member, they will appreciate more to hear anything from you than to have a perfect response. Rule number 2 is a voice message is also better than no message at all. If it's going to take you 5 weeks to tell me how your trip went because you want to sit down and write all about it, but it's so much work, it's so overwhelming, and it's already been a few days, then I don't care. Just record me a crappy voice message while you're walking to the bus stop where you ramble for a few minutes and tell me about your life. I still appreciate it more than not hearing anything. And so while I personally don't really enjoy hearing voice messages, I still think it's better, and I try to do it whenever I'm struggling to reply. Rule number 3, send some version of the following message. Thank you so much for reaching out to me. I'm sorry, but I don't have the time to craft a proper response right now. Promise, I'll get back to you as soon as I can. This person will feel seen, they will feel acknowledged, and also you don't have to carry the burden of not replying to something important for days and days and days. Shame gathers up with every single day that we don't reply to people. It gets worse and worse and worse. It's not just about not knowing what to say anymore, it's about how do I apologize? Do they hate me? What are they going to say? And it's even more of an emotional barrier. Before it even gets to that, we can stop it with the talk to you later, crappy message, or voice message. Even still, if you have gotten to the point where the shame is unbearable, I want to remind you that people will still probably be happy to hear from you, even if it takes you 5 years. Yeah, it was kind of weird that you left, but it's nice to have you. Stuff happens. Rule number 4, sometimes I feel so bad for saying no or I can't talk that I don't even want to type it. It just feels icky. So you can write a few of these generic responses and save them as a note on your phone. And whenever the time comes, just copy and paste them. You can close your eyes and send it and you won't feel as bad. Other than overwhelm and forgetting and just generally being spacey, there is one big thing that holds us back from replying on time. And that is some sort of emotional barrier. Maybe you have not done much for your school project and so you don't want to reply to your classmate. Maybe you know that a friend of yours is very sad and depressed and you cannot get into that headspace to reply to her, so you ghost her. You have something bad that you have to say and so you don't say it. In fact, you don't say anything. There's just some sort of emotional barrier that stops you from getting into that conversation. One of the things you can do is to get a partner or a buddy to work through this with you. Don't be embarrassed. This is hard for us, just like other things are hard for other people. We are not just lazy or pretending. Again, this is a disorder. And so if you have a friend or a partner that could go through it with you, either by sitting down and just encouraging you while you reply, maybe talking you through it, maybe even through writing the message themselves and you saying, well, please reject the classmate for me. Tell them that I don't like working with them and I'm leaving. And you cannot write it yourself, it just feels so bad. They write it for you. Or, and what I sometimes do, to be perfectly honest, just let them get into the chat, feel out the conversation, and reply to the whole thing all on their own. Here's my way of thinking. It's hard for us to let go of things, especially emotionally. Sometimes if I get a negative comment from a person that I know, from a friend, if I get a negative message, I could end up thinking about it for weeks. And it can make me feel very bad about myself. It can make me unproductive. It can make me lie in bed for days and not want to do anything. So before I get into that headspace, I would much rather ask my partner to do it, who does it in 10 minutes and doesn't really feel that bad about it. And I can still do all the things that I have to do to feed myself and do my job. And that's why we have this kind of agreement where sometimes I will just come to him and I will say, please reply to this, or I will tell you how to reply to this, or listen to this for me, because it's 5 minutes for him, but it could be days for me. And then I do other things. Other things are hard for other people and I can do them for them. Now, if you don't have anyone that you wouldn't trust this to or that will do this for you, you can still ask someone to just sit with you while you do it. Maybe to just be an accountability buddy. Say, hey, I have to write something really hard. Can you have your coffee here with me? I'll just be on my phone. Or just have them there to cushion the blow. If you feel really bad, make sure that maybe you reply to them and after that you have a date for getting a coffee or having a walk. It's still something. Finally, with the emotional part out of the way, I want to share some life hacks, some lighthearted anti-ghosting life hacks. And the first one is to reply every time you go to the loo. Of course, you can scroll something, but you can also take it as a cue to answer one message. That's all you have to do. Another thing that I do and I recommend is to go out for a walk and answer messages. Send voice messages, copy, talk to you later type of messages, or make calls. Bonus points if you're in nature, you cannot escape to go to your fridge or put on a video on your TV or something, you just have to keep walking. What I also do is I block out time in my calendar and in my to-do list app, I write reply to messages on XYZ application or just reply to all messages or reply to all emails. And that's something that I can check off and know that I've made time for. But then again, these productivity type tips should really be taken with a grain of salt when you have ADHD. And the last hack is aggregators. These are essentially applications that gather several messaging apps into one place. So you don't have the barrier of opening each application, WhatsApp, Telegram, Viber, whatever. You just have one thing you open, you reply there, and you're done. The one that I recommend is All-in-One Messenger because it is free, it has so many messengers you can use in it, and it is for the computer. So it's really fast to type out your replies. That's the one that I use. Sometimes opening the messenger and seeing all the chats, all the colors is overwhelming in and of itself, even if half of them don't need to be replied to. I find it really satisfying to reply to something and archive it, and it will be back when the person gets back to me. There is a sense of completeness, and that is motivating. Maybe it's just not being hit by all this information when you see things, but archiving works, so I highly recommend that you try it. But it's very important to remember that even with all of these tricks, and even though I'm on medication, and even though people help me, I still ghost people, especially when the emotional stuff gather up or when I'm extremely busy. What I do in those times are I go for help, and I'm not ashamed to ask, hey, can you reply for me? And I go on a walk and I just make myself answer as many messages as I can in any way that I can, in a crappy way, with a voice message, with a pre-made message. I am much better at it now, but I just want to tell you that so that you don't expect perfection and don't let people expect perfection. Tell them, hey, I have ADHD. It's not as easy for me. Maybe you can send them my video, which is kind of funny, and it is an apology for ghosting people because, yeah, we're gonna ghost people because that's what we do.